Imagine being trapped inside an aircraft with smoke billowing through the cabin, panic spreading among passengers, and time running out. This is the nightmare that unfolded aboard Saudia Flight 163, one of the most harrowing disasters in aviation history. What went wrong? And could it have been prevented? Stick around as we unravel the chilling events of that fateful day. The tragedy begins on the evening of August 19, 1980, in Karachi, Pakistan. Saudia Flight 163, a Lockheed L-1011 TriStar, was preparing for its journey to Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, with a scheduled stop in Riyadh. At the time, Jeddah was bustling with pilgrims arriving for the Hajj, one of Islam's most sacred duties. Over 1 million people flocked to Saudi Arabia's airports, many arriving on chartered flights like Flight 163. The Lockheed TriStar, hailed as one of the most advanced airliners of its time, featured modern comforts and cutting-edge technology, including an auto-land function. It was spacious, quieter than its competitors, and often used for high-density seating. However, this particular TriStar, registered as HZ's AHK, had been in service for just a year before its tragic end. At 6:30 p.m. local time, the aircraft took off from Karachi with 82 passengers on board. The first leg of the journey to Riyadh was uneventful, providing a smooth and scenic flight over the Arabian Sea as twilight descended. The experienced yet somewhat controversial flight crew included Captain Muhammad Ali Al-Shawita, First Officer Sami Abdullah Hassanain, and Flight Engineer Bradley Curtis. Their combined records were marred by questionable training histories, setting the stage for what was to come. The plane landed in Riyadh at 7:06 p.m. Over the next 2 hours, passengers disembarked, ground services refueled the aircraft, and 205 new passengers boarded for the final leg to Jeddah. The total headcount now stood at 301. At precisely 9:08 p.m., Saudia Flight 163 took off again, climbing steadily toward its cruising altitude of 35000 feet. What seemed like a routine flight was about to take a deadly turn. At 9:15 p.m., a flight attendant alerted the cockpit to a potential issue. Moments later, the smoke detection system flagged a warning in one of the aft cargo compartments. The flight engineer confirmed the alert, but confusion reigned in the cockpit. Instead of immediately initiating emergency procedures, the crew spent precious minutes debating the authenticity of the warning and testing the smoke detection system. This hesitation was the first in a series of critical missteps. As the crew lingered over checklists and debated their next move, the plane continued flying farther from Riyadh, the nearest airport, turning what could have been a manageable emergency into an escalating crisis. Meanwhile, in the rear of the plane, smoke began seeping into the passenger cabin. Flight Engineer Curtis left the cockpit to assess the situation and returned with alarming news. "We've got a fire back there." The severity of the situation became undeniable. Panic spread among passengers as smoke thickened. Yet, the crew remained hesitant, struggling to locate the appropriate emergency procedures in their manuals. At 9:25 p.m., the fire's intensity increased, destroying a crucial throttle control cable for the plane's tail-mount engine. Engine 2 became unresponsive, stuck at a high-power setting. Despite this setback, the crew managed to turn the plane around and begin an emergency descent back to Riyadh. By then, the fire had spread into the passenger cabin, torching the flooring, seats, and carpet. At 9:32 p.m., Riyadh's airport came into view. The crew prepared for an emergency landing, discussing evacuation plans. Strangely, the captain was recorded instructing the crew not to evacuate. Whether this directive reached the cabin remains unclear. Passengers were instructed to brace for landing as the aircraft approached the runway. The TriStar touched down at 9:35 p.m., but failed to stop within the usual runway distance. It rolled to the very end of the 4,100-meter runway before finally turning onto a taxiway and coming to a stop. Critical hydraulic systems had likely been compromised by the fire, limiting the crew's ability to brake effectively. What followed was an agonizing 26 minutes as the plane sat idle on the taxiway. No evacuation took place. Smoke and fire continued to consume the aircraft's interior. Despite repeated radio communications, the ground crew and emergency services could not discern the full scale of the emergency. Rescue teams hesitated to approach the aircraft due to the still-running engines, which posed a danger of ingestion. It wasn't until 9:42 p.m. that the engines were shut down. By then, oxygen levels inside the cabin had dropped dangerously low. Carbon monoxide poisoning incapacitated and killed most of the passengers and crew. At 10:08 p.m., a flashover engulfed the plane, sealing the fate of all 301 people on board. Investigators faced a harrowing task as they sifted through the charred wreckage. The fire's origin was traced to the C3 cargo compartment. but its exact cause remains unknown. Speculation ranged from hazardous materials in passenger luggage to undetected electrical faults. What is certain is that the compartment's fire containment failed catastrophically, allowing the blaze to spread unchecked. The investigation harshly criticized the flight crew and ground emergency services. Delayed decision-making, poor crew resource management, and a lack of proper evacuation procedures were highlighted as contributing factors. The captain's hesitancy to declare an emergency and the crew's failure to evacuate the plane were deemed pivotal misjudgments. The disaster of Saudia Flight 163 prompted significant changes in aviation safety. Fire containment standards for cargo compartments were overhauled. Airlines adopted more robust training for pilots and crew, emphasizing the importance of decisive action during emergencies. The introduction of halon fire extinguishers, though controversial due to environmental concerns, became a staple in aviation fire safety. The tragedy also underscored the critical role of crew resource management, CRM, in preventing similar incidents. Modern flight crews are now trained to challenge authority and work collaboratively under high-stress situations. These lessons have undoubtedly saved countless lives in the decades since. Saudia Flight 163 remains a stark reminder of the devastating consequences of hesitation and poor communication in aviation. While the exact cause of the fire may never be known, its legacy lives on in the form of improved safety protocols and heightened awareness. The story of this ill-fated flight continues to resonate, serving as a solemn warning of the fragility of human decision-making in moments of crisis. Thank you for watching and learning about this tragic yet important story. If you found this video insightful, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel for more aviation stories and analyses. Also, we'd love to hear your thoughts in the comment below. What do you think about the lessons learned from this disaster? Let us know, and stay tuned for our next video. Until then, take care and fly safe.